For nearly 2 decades at this point, the Mortal Kombat fighting game series has been featuring guest fighters from all sorts of different franchises as DLC characters. While this trend may have been initially toyed with in 2008's Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, it wasn't until the release of Mortal Kombat 9 in 2011 that things really started to kick off. The very first trailer for the game revealed that Kratos from the God of War series would be added to the PS3 versions of the game, and later down the line, Freddy Krueger from the A Nightmare on Elm Street film franchise would be added as DLC. From there, the list of crossover characters featured in games developed by NetherRealm Studios grew and grew. From horror icons like Jason Voorhees and the Xenomorph in Mortal Kombat X, to comic book legends like Hellboy and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Injustice 2, and action movie heroes like Rambo and the Terminator in Mortal Kombat 11. It's abundantly clear at this point that NetherRealm Studios has mastered the art of the crossover, being on the same level as the Super Smash Bros. Franchise, in my opinion at least. And it seems like Mortal Kombat 1, the newest game from NetherRealm Studios, is set to continue this tradition, as it was announced that Omni-Man from Invincible, Peacemaker from the Suicide Squad, and Homelander from The Boys would be coming to the game, and with rumors swirling that Ghostface and Conan the Barbarian have been found in the game's code, it's never been a better time to speculate about who should be added to the game, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing in today's video. I'm going to be going over, in no particular order, 5 guest fighters that would be perfect for Mortal Kombat 1. I'll be explaining who these characters are and where they come from, as well as why I think they deserve to be in the game. Some important things to keep in mind before we get started with this video. I'm more of an ideas guy, not an actual programmer. I won't be going into depth about things like combos and balancing and the like. I'm just here to speculate and have fun. Before this video begins, however, I'd like you guys to scroll down and comment which guest fighter you'd love to see in Mortal Kombat 1. Without further ado, let's get this party started with our first combatant on the list.
Yeah. See this? This is my boomstick!
Deadite Slayer.
Swallow this.
Womanizer.
I can make sweet, sweet love to a woman like no other man.
Retail Worker.
Name's Ash.
Housewares.
The Savior of Humanity.
Say hello to the 21st century.
Ashley J. Williams is all of these things and much, much more. This beautiful beast of a man hails from the Evil Dead series, a horror film franchise centered around Ash and his efforts to defeat evil body-possessing demons known as Deadites, which were summoned through the use of an evil book known as the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. It's a wild time. A wild, bloody time. So after what I just described, I think it should be obvious why I decided to include this guy on the list. Ash's penchant for violence and his loud mouth would make him a perfect fit as a Mortal Kombat guest fighter. And, well, it seems as if NetherRealm Studios thought the same thing too. During the first couple of months of Mortal Kombat 11's lifespan, rumors started to swirl that Ash was going to be added as one of the game's many guest combatants. As the months passed, however, it started to become increasingly obvious that these rumors weren't merely rumors. Emails mentioning copyright information related to Ash and the Evil Dead franchise started to surface online, as well as data miners finding files related to the Deadite Slayer in the Switch version of the game. But this crossover seemingly wasn't meant to be, as by the time Mortal Kombat 11 received its final content update, Ashley J. Williams was nowhere to be found. To this day, there hasn't been a clear reason given for why Ash was axed from the game's roster. The most commonly believed explanation is that, for one reason or another, NetherRealm Studios wasn't able to fully obtain the rights to Ash from his copyright holders. I've also heard people say that the Evil Dead video game was the reason for why he didn't appear in MK11, which I don't know how true that rumor is, but if it is, yeah, that was worth it. But anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is that NetherRealm Studios has the perfect opportunity to try their hand at adding the promised one to a Mortal Kombat game with the release of Mortal Kombat 1. It would really be a sight to behold, given how the character just barely missed out on being added to MK11. And look, I'm no video game programmer, so I don't know how feasible this would be, but if NetherRealm did any work on Ash for MK11, I imagine they could easily pick up where they left off for Mortal Kombat 1. I can envision Ash playing like a combination of Leatherface's killer variant from MKX and the Terminator from MK11, using his chainsaw arm for the majority of his combos and his boomstick as his projectile option. I can also envision Ash using the Necronomicon to both buff himself and debuff his opponents. I realize that having Ash start off this list might have been a bit of a cop-out choice, seeing how documented and requested the character is. So in order to make up for such an obvious choice, the next character on this list will be less obvious, but still equally as iconic and equally as deadly. Springtrap, aka William Afton, is one of the biggest horror icons of the last decade. He's the main overarching villain of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, a once promising young businessman and robotics expert turned slash. When William's despicable crimes finally caught up with him, he became trapped in a contraption of his own design, left to rot for decades as punishment for cutting short the lives of so many innocent children. But William came back. He always comes back. Now a decaying corpse stuck inside a withering animatronic suit, William Afton wanders the earth once again. As a lot of you probably already know, this isn't where Afton's story ends, but if I went fully into detail explaining Afton's backstory, we'd be here all day. What's important to know is that Springtrap is an undead monster, hell-bent on exacting revenge against those that wronged him in his previous life, which is exactly why he'd be perfect for Mortal Kombat 1. Many characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise follow this exact same principle of being a vengeful entity who desires revenge against those responsible for their downfall. Scorpion is the obvious example of this, but characters like Noob Saibot and the Revenants of MKX and MK11 also fit this bill. I imagine Springtrap would fit into a similar character archetype as Jason Voorhees from MKX, given the character's similarities to the slasher villain. Springtrap would use his immense size and strength to toss around his opponents. I can also imagine him having the ability to resurrect himself should he lose all of his health in the match, a callback to his whole "I always come back" shtick. And finally, I think it'd be awesome if Springtrap incorporated the Phantom animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 3 into his moveset. I see them working similar to how the Xenomorph's drones worked in MKX, being summoned from off-screen to attack and stun your opponents. So, do I think it's possible for Springtrap to appear in Mortal Kombat 1? No, oh god, no. There's no way in hell that would happen. Look, if Scott Cawthon isn't gonna let Afton appear in Dead by Daylight, or even something more kid-friendly like Fortnite, then there's no way in hell he'd let NetherRealm Studios add him to MK1. It's a damn shame, I know, since, like I said, Springtrap is a horror icon who'd be perfect for this game. But alas, I don't see it ever happening. Though speaking of horror icons who would fit perfectly into the world of Mortal Kombat, let's talk about the next character on this list, shall we? Hailing from Stephen King's It franchise, Pennywise the Dancing Clown is the true embodiment of fear, using his cosmic powers to torment the inhabitants of the fictional town of Derry. Much like Springtrap, he mainly preys on children, shapeshifting into whatever it is that his victims fear the most. Pennywise is one of those rare horror icons that manages to scare multiple generations of kids. Whether you grew up with the 1990 miniseries or the late 2010 films, there is a good chance this character's face has appeared in your nightmares at one point or another. Pennywise's mastery of fear and his ability to shapeshift into a monster would, in my opinion, be more than enough to qualify him to join the ranks of the Mortal Kombat 1 roster. Can you imagine the interactions between him and the rest of the Mortal Kombat cast? And how he would just absolutely mess with their heads? Like, I can see him prodding Katana and Melina about the death of Sindel, teasing Johnny about his divorce, reminding Scorpion about how Sub-Zero betrayed him, and so much more. Pennywise's shapeshifting abilities would, of course, be part of his moveset. I can imagine it looking and working similar to how Reptile shapeshifts between his human and lizard form, but in Pennywise's case, he'd shapeshift into his demonic spider form. One last thing I want to note is that I think it'd be awesome if Pennywise had a skin based on his 1990s look. I think it would be incredible if NetherRealm Studios was somehow able to get Tim Curry to voice the lines for the skin. The same way Jean-Claude Van Damme recites all of Johnny's lines when using his skin. I think Pennywise has the best chance of being added to MK1 out of all the characters on this list, given that the film rights to the It films are currently owned by Warner Brothers, the same company that owns the rights to Mortal Kombat. I also think it's been way too long since Mortal Kombat has featured a horror movie character as a downloadable fighter, and I think Pennywise would be a great return to form for the series. Well, he would if it weren't for the fact that the next character on this list fits the bill way better than he does. Having starred in over a dozen Halloween films, Michael Myers is one of, if not the most iconic horror movie villains of all time. Known as the Shape to some and the Boogeyman to others, Michael Myers is a ruthless, emotionless, mute murderer, and is often described as the embodiment of pure evil. I think it goes without saying that Myers is, without a doubt, the most requested guest fighter in Mortal Kombat history, more so than even Ash Williams. And, well, that title isn't exactly without merit. Ever since Mortal Kombat 9 introduced Freddy Krueger, and Mortal Kombat X followed it up with Jason and Leatherface, fans have been dying for NetherRealm to complete this Mount Rushmore of slasher movie icons. I myself am of a similar mindset. I was really hoping they'd add Michael to MK11, but after a while, it became increasingly clear that that wasn't going to happen. But anyways, I can imagine Michael being a sort of grappler character, based solely on how up close and personal he gets in the Halloween films. He'd come equipped with his iconic chef's knife as his main weapon. He'd also have a lot of the same attributes that Jason had in MKX, such as his ability to grant himself super armor and resurrect himself upon losing all of his health. I really don't have much more to say when it comes to Michael Myers, as he sort of speaks for himself. NetherRealm Studios is clearly very aware of the demand for this monster, given the fact that Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon just recently teased his inclusion with this image on Twitter. While I'm pretty sure this image was done as a nod towards the Ghostface leaks, I wouldn't necessarily count out Myers just yet. When it comes to Ed, we never know just what that man is cooking. The Doomslayer, known to some as the Doom Guy, is easily one of gaming's most recognizable protagonists, hailing from one of the most important video game franchises of all time. Once a simple soldier serving in the Marines, the Doomslayer's life would be forever changed upon bearing witness to Mars getting invaded by demons from hell. Upon witnessing this invasion, the Doomslayer would do what he does best. Ripping and Tearing, coincidentally, also happens to be the name of the game when it comes to Mortal Kombat. The Doomslayer, out of all the characters I've mentioned on this list, is probably the most perfect character I could have picked. Sure, Ash and Springtrap might be horror legends. Pennywise might be the easiest to obtain. Michael Myers might be the most requested guest fighter in Mortal Kombat history. But the Doomslayer is the ultra-violent video game icon. Games like Doom and the original Mortal Kombat are the whole reason why video game age ratings even exist in the first place. So putting the Slayer in Mortal Kombat 1 would feel like a true full circle moment. When it comes to Doomslayer's potential moveset in Mortal Kombat 1, there is a lot that could be done with him. First and foremost, I think it goes without saying that the Slayer would be a zoner, given his insane arsenal of weapons. I can easily imagine things like the super shotgun and the rocket launcher making up the bulk of his special moves. That's not to say he wouldn't be good in up close and personal situations, though. Whether it be a chainsaw, the crucible sword, or his bare hands, the Doomslayer would have plenty of options for setting up and finishing combos. And finally, I know I haven't really mentioned fatalities all that much in this video, which is, surprising given it's a Mortal Kombat video, but I can think of no better fatality than the Slayer pulling out the BFG 9000 to absolutely obliterate his opponents. I can also imagine a whole host of iconic Doom demons being summoned to take care of the Slayer's opponent, being his second fatality. Also, I didn't know how to properly transition to this next talking point, so I'll just be blunt. But how cool would it be if Samuel Hayden or Vega were the ones to do the talking during the Doomslayer's interactions with the other characters? These two franchises are practically made for each other. Both Doom and Mortal Kombat revolutionized their respective genres, spilling mountains of blood along the way. I can only hope that in the Slayer's quest to rid the universe of Satan's hellspawns, he manages to stumble his way into the Mortal Kombat universe. But with that being said, I'm going to bring this video to a close. Thank you for watching. Did you guys like the characters I chose for this list? Or do you think I should have gone with some others? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, leave a like. And if you want to see more crossover-based content like this in the future, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell and follow me on Twitter, which will be linked in the description below. So, yeah, until next time, I'll see you in the next one.
Excellent.